What is up, gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode on the channel. Think back to the last time that you faced a liar. Or maybe you didn't even know you were facing a liar. Maybe at face value, you took the thing that was said to you as the truth and you only later discovered to your detriment that it was a lie. Would you not have liked to know if and what were the telltale signs that this person was lying to you? Well, on this episode, I'll be giving you guys my experience. I'll be sharing you guys 10 key tips, very actionable tips, things to look for, things to identify, micro gestures, blinking, a lot of key features that you can actually use to identify someone who is not being as trustworthy or as truthful as you want. And why is this important? And should you kind of go around the world or go around your life feeling paranoid and microanalyzing everyone to see if they're lying to you? Far from it. These are the tools that I'm trying to give you from my personal experiences to enhance your life. It's not to put you in a position where you're microanalyzing every single situation you need, but it is a handy set of tips and tricks that you can use in a pinch to be able to make educated decisions and to protect yourself and those that you love. So without further ado, we get right into the episode. The first telltale category, and one that never lies to you if you know how to decipher it correctly, is going to be body language. Your body language never lies. Your mouth can say one thing, but your body projects something else completely. And to the well-initiated, they're able to sniff that out immediately. Within your body language, there are a variety of things that you should look for when interacting with someone that you believe is being less than truthful with you. And the first thing is going to be their facial expressions. Things that I typically notice are, look at the face. You see, and you'll tend to see with a liar, signs of tension. You'll see their face tense up. There's a lack of relaxation on their face. There's something that looks to be forced, whether it's a smile or whether it's a lot of blinking. They're almost having to be very conscious about what they're doing, and that comes off very, very forced. You see the muscular tension is extremely harsh. It's very, very sticky. And this is something that comes off immediately. You also need to look at gestures. When someone is lying, they'll tend to self-soothe. They'll tend to self-soothe by doing a variety of things, and it depends on person to person. But some examples of self-soothing are playing with your hands a lot, fiddling a lot with your hands. And it's not just a subtle fiddling with the hands, it's a very aggressive, very vibrant fiddling with the hands. Maybe it's stroking. You may be stroking yourself as a way to self-soothe. It's small gestures that are out of the ordinary that show that there's some form of compensation being done in light of what is being said. Next up is eye contact. And with eye contact, it can go both ways on either sides of the extreme. You may get someone that is avoiding eye contact altogether. There's zero eye contact, or they're just very shifty. They're looking from left to right. They cannot hold consistent eye contact with you for more than a second, right? We're not talking about 3, 4, 5 seconds. We're talking someone who cannot hold eye contact. They look at you, then look away. Look at you, look away. On the flip side, someone who is holding eye contact without breaking at all. It's a very just consistency there, almost like they are forcing themselves to fixate on that one point, that one position, as if anything else would be a telltale sign of their lying. They're trying so hard to not lie, to show that they're not lying, that they're just focused on one thing. And this is also a potential sign that you're not being told the truth. Next up, and this is subtle, but if you know what the baseline is, you know what to look for, is pupil dilation. When we're under stress, our heart rate goes up and our pupils have the ability to dilate. Dilation means that your pupil itself just expands, and you'll notice the color ring around your eye gets very, very small. And this is something to look out for, especially in situations of high anxiety and high stress. The person that is lying to you is going to more likely than not exhibit that as a unnatural or as a indirect sign that they're lying. Next up is shrugging or continuous head shaking. And it's almost like a inability to accept the situation at hand. And you'll see this, it's just like, it's a very frustrated form of shrugging and a very frustrated form of head shaking. Almost like they cannot comprehend what is being said or what they are being accused of or what they are being asked. These are things that you should definitely be noticing. If you notice quick shifts in those motions or in those actions when you're presenting said person with a point that you're trying to make, and you notice all of a sudden there's a lot of sporadic and erratic head shaking and a lot of shrugging, then this could also be a sign that you're not being told the truth. Proximity is also a key indicator of someone that's trying to stay away from you. In a scenario where you know this person well, if they're trying to maintain distance from you. This is a self-protection mechanism, which could also be a point or a indicator of untruthfulness or deception. Last but not least is sporadic foot movements, whether that's side to side, whether that's shaking your knees, whether that's tapping your foot. Again, though these are not conclusive on their own, stacking them up together, foot movements combined with sporadic head shaking, combined with pupil dilation, combined with XYZ, all of these things stacking up together, or the majority of these things stacking up together, could be a very clear indication of deception from the person. So we've covered body language. This has to do with what's not being said. Well, now let's look at what is actually being said. How can we evaluate what's being said for clues of potential deception? The first thing is going to be inconsistencies. The thing about a lie is that it's a lie. It didn't happen. So in the heat of the moment, when someone is telling you their story, you'll notice a lot of inconsistencies. Whether it's inconsistencies in specific details, times of the day, names, specific actions that were taken, or inconsistencies between versions of the story. Perhaps you had a conversation with someone on the Monday, and you reopen that same conversation later down the week. You will also notice the inability for that conversation or that story to have the same details consistently. That's because they never happened, or they're not being told as they actually happened. Next up, when speaking, analyze speech patterns and look for sporadic and significant changes in speech patterns. How are they speaking? Are they speaking slowly and calmly? And then when asked something poignantly, all of a sudden their speech becomes fast, becomes very sharp. Well, how often is their speech changing? And is it triggered by anything that is being said or anything that's being done? Next up, it's important to pay attention to a person's baseline behavior. Contrary to popular belief, some people may project or exhibit a lot of the points that I mentioned in this episode, but this doesn't necessarily make them a liar. These points are all related to changes in character or sudden changes in character. Typically, sudden changes in character mean that something that is inauthentic is being said. So always make sure to analyze a person's baseline when you know that they're telling the truth, or when you know that they're not under stress, or a scenario in which they're potentially threatened. The change in baseline behavior is the indication of potential deceit. This is actually what lie detector tests look for. They don't look for there's a magic formula for being able to tell a lie. They look for changes in stress, changes in heart rate. So in the event of these changes, this could be an indicator that something out of the ordinary is happening, which could lead to potential deception. Next up is to trust your intuition. And intuition is a very esoteric concept, but at some point, as you deal with people more and more consistently, you tend to pick up a sixth sense. I'm not quite sure what the actual psychology or what the actual science behind this is, but a person's energy is able to vibrate. And typically people, when they're in a state of deception, there's a state of either shame or fear. Those states, being lower vibrational states, emanate. And as you build yourself up over time, you're able to feel that lower sense of vibration. And this is what we call as intuition. This is me trying to solidify it as much as I can in theory. But you'll be able to tell through your intuition if someone is being deceitful. Moving on, do what the police do. Ask questions. There's a saying that says you have the right to remain silent. Anything you do can and will be used against you in the court of law. Well, we're not in a court of law here, so take the opportunity and ask questions. Ask open-ended questions that allow the person to play their hand. Allow them to give you information that could potentially be damning, especially if this is someone that you have full confidence or are more sure than not that they're not being as truthful as they need to be with you. Ask them questions and allow them to reveal who they are. Last but not least is to just take a moment and verify the information. All of the information I've given you today is not meant to put you in a position where you go around accusing people of lying to you. That's not the purpose here. At the end of the day, the best case scenario is that the person in front of you, though you want them to be lying to you, are actually not lying to you. They're being truthful and they're just nervous or they're just anxious. We must always give people the benefit of the doubt. We must not be paranoid. We must not be so distrustful of people that we go around believing that everyone and everything that is being said to us is a lie. These are tools for you to empower yourself and to allow you to connect with people that you want and you wish the best for, and to allow them to want and wish the best for you. But in the event that you're faced with someone that is less than scrupulous, well, now you have the tools necessary to go out, to identify, to protect yourself and those you love. So guys, let me know if you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed the practical tips and tricks that we provided. And if you guys want to see other episodes like this where we go through behavioral patterns, where we go through human psychology, just to give you guys the tools you need to navigate this crazy world. And this is a personal interest of mine. So from the very bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Shadi TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.